Good afternoon. In today's lecture, we will be seeing the last part of Unit 2, which is multiple access protocols. So, by now we have seen the data link layer and the medium access sublayer and the flow control and error control protocols. So, basically, as I said, Unit 2 is about the data link layer, and we have data link layer is actually divided into two kinds of layers. So the first layer is the logical layer and the other is the MAC sublayer. So whenever we are talking about data link layer, the most important task of the data link layer is the flow control and error control protocols. But apart from that, we even have multiple access protocols. So data link layer, or we can divide it into data link control and multiple access resolution, and that multiple access resolution part consists of these protocols which we will be studying today. So here, whenever we are talking about data link, a mechanism which provides a link with a reliable communication, and in the protocols that we have described, we usually think that there is a dedicated link between the sender and the receiver. So in the previous lecture, I have already given an introduction of this multiple access protocol with the help of an example of the classroom where a teacher has asked a question and the students are answering, and all of them are answering together. Then it is the choice of the teacher, or then it is in the hands of the teacher to ask each student individually and get the answer. Because if all of the students are answering together, then it will be difficult for the teacher to understand what is being said by each student. Now you can consider this as the receiver and the sender. So the senders are the students and the teacher is the receiver, and if all of them are sending their message together, then there will be a collision. Now, collision is basically interference, that is, two messages are being sent together on a single channel. So, if two messages are being sent together on a single channel, then it will be, then obviously the messages will collide and the messages will be corrupted or damaged. So, in that case, our messages are lost. So, basically, whenever you're dealing with data link layer, the frames, we deal with frames and the frames are lost. So that is the reason we need to have some kind of protocol if we have a shared medium. That is, instead of having a individual medium, if we have a shared medium, then we need to have some kind of protocols. So basically, whenever nodes or stations are connected using a common link called multi-point link or broadcast link, so basically we can broadcast the message. We need a multiple access protocol to coordinate access to the link. So that is multiple access resolution is basically your media access control, the MAC sublayer of this data link layer. So the problem of controlling the access to the medium, so medium access control, right? So the we are supposed to control the access to the medium. That is, it is similar to the rules of speaking in the classroom. So the procedure, the protocols guarantee the right to speak or right to send the message and ensure that two senders do not send the message at the same time. That is, they do not interrupt each other or do not monopolize the discussion. So, for that reason, we are supposed to use this multiple access protocols, and we will proceed with the different types of multiple access protocols now. The various multiple access protocols have been categorized as follows. So the first is random access protocols, which we will be studying in today's class. The next is controlled access protocols and channelization protocols. So we don't have these two in our syllabus. We just have the random access protocols, and we will be covering all of these protocols today. So first and foremost, we will be getting to know what is the meaning of random access protocol. So what is a random access protocol? So random access protocols can be called by another name, which is contention methods. So in random access or contention methods, no station is superior to another station. So basically, if there are multiple hosts on a network, then no host is superior to any other host. So whenever someone wants to send a message, the network, the host can send the message. So no station permits. So station over here is the sender and receiver both. That is, the networks are bidirectional networks, so we can send the message in both the directions. So that is why we are calling it a station. So no station is superior to another station, and none is assigned the control over another. So all the stations are equal, and whoever wants to send a message, they can send a message. So at each instance, a station that has data to send uses a procedure defined by the protocol to make a decision on whether or not to send. So what does this decision depend upon? How does it make this decision? It makes the decision based upon two things. So the first is whether the station is idle or whether the station is busy. So for those two things, it can decide whether the the station can send the message or not. So in other words, each station can transmit whenever it wants or when it desires, on the condition that it follows the procedure. What is the procedure now? It has to check whether the medium allows it to send or not. So two features of this method are important. So what are the two features that we are supposed to know? Those are, first, there is no scheduled time for a station to transmit. So the message which is being sent or the data which is being sent, it does not have a scheduled time. It can send whenever it wants. That is, the transmission is random. The transmission is random, hence it got the name random access protocol. Transmission random. This is the first feature. And then the second feature is there is no rule specifying which station should send next. Sorry. So stations one after the other, there is no scheduling of the stations also. So this is the reason it is called random access. Why is it called the contention method? Because stations can compete. There is a competition between the stations, competition between stations on who can send next. So this competition is basically contention for each station to send its data. So that is why it is called contention method. So in a random access method, each station has the right to the medium. Now what is the medium over here? Medium is the link or the transmission channel. So suppose if we have a network with these stations A, B, C, D, and then E. Now, in this case, suppose if A wants to send a message to E, it does not have to check, it can send the message. Now, if once A sends the message to E, then D wants to send a message to B. Then it can say that I want to send a message and it can send the message. Now, what will happen in this case? So, in the random access method, whenever one or more stations, so sorry, not one or more than one station tries to send, there is an access conflict. That is, if A is sending the message to E and at the same time D wants to send a message to B, there will be a collision. So two messages being sent together at the same time. Imagine this in the way that if two trains are coming on the tracks on the same tracks from the opposite direction, then there will be a collision. It works the same way. So we have A's data traveling from A to E, and we have D's data traveling from D to B. So in that case, what will happen? There will be a collision, and the frames will either be destroyed or modified. Basically, the frames will be corrupted. So in that case, to avoid access conflict, that is the access of the channel or link should be the conflict, that is the fight for the channel or the fight for the link, to avoid that access conflict or to resolve it when it happens or whenever this kind of collision is happening and we want to resolve it, each station follows a procedure. Now what is the procedure? It asks a few questions. What are the questions that a station will ask? First is, when can the station access the medium? When can the station access the medium? What can the station do? What can the station do if the medium is busy? How can the station determine the success or failure of the transmission. That is, how can the station know whether the data has been sent or not? So how can it check success or failure? And finally, what should it do? What can the station do? Station do if there is an access conflict? So these are the 4 questions that the station should ask when it is following a procedure. Now the random access methods that we will be studying, we have something known as Aloha, which is used for which is a procedure for simple access. So let's just here. So we will be studying Aloha, which is a procedure for multiple access. Yes, sorry. Yeah. And after that, this method was improved with the addition of a procedure that forces the stations to sense the medium. So this is carrier sense multiple access. This CSMA is carrier sense multiple access. So what this will do is it will check the carrier. What is the carrier? It is the link or the channel or the transmission medium. So it will sense whether it can send the message or not on the multiple access or the multiple or the shared medium actually. So here the carrier sense Aloha was improved with CSMA, carrier sense multiple access. Then for CSMA there were 2 methods which are added. So one is the carrier sense multiple access with collision detection. That is, if there is a collision, it can be detected. And the other method with CSMA is carrier sense multiple access with collision avoidance. That is, whenever there is a collision, how can the stations avoid the collision? That is the CA, collision avoidance, and we have CD, collision detection. So in CSMA, then we had again 2 divisions or 2 parallel methods. One is the collision detection and the other is collision avoidance. Now we will proceed with the first protocol of the random access protocol, which is Aloha. So in Aloha, again, we have, so the heading is pure Aloha instead of simply Aloha. So Aloha again is divided into 2. The first is the pure Aloha and the next is the slotted Aloha. Now, what does this mean by Aloha? So Aloha is the original and the earliest random access method, and it was developed in the early 1970s. So the first random access protocol which was developed was Aloha, and it was actually designed for wireless LANs or the wireless networks, but it can be used on any shared medium also. It is used on the shared medium, and it is obvious that there are potential collisions in our shared medium, and if the medium is shared between the stations. So whenever a station sends data, another station may also attempt to do at the same time. So the data from 2 stations may collide and become corrupted. Or here, let's see the term which we are using. So in the case of Aloha, this diagram is actually very important, and this comes for 2 marks. So let's just see that. Yeah, the diagram is important, so we'll see the diagram and understand it first. So the first and foremost thing is this original Aloha is called pure Aloha because it is simple and an elegant protocol. And the idea is that each station sends a frame. So we have over here 4 stations, and each of them is sending 2 frames. And it will send the frame whenever it has data to be sent. That is, it does not wait whether the link or the channel is free or it is busy. It will just simply send the frame. So, however, since there is only one channel, so each frame station is sending. So let's have another diagram over here. In this case, if we have A and B, then If A and B are sending, then we can directly send it and there is no need to check whether the channel is free or busy, right? But if we have A, B, then we have C and D, and they can be in this way. So we have A, then B, and C, and finally D. Now, what will happen in this case if A wants to send a message to B or A wants to send a message to D, and even B and C wants to communicate, then it will be a problem. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that whenever the stations wants to communicate, they have to make sure that no other station is communicating at the same time. Now, all the stations are transmitting. If you notice, the first station 1 has started transmitting the frame 1.1. What will happen? Frame 1.1 will start traveling, and this is the time slot or the time level being showed over here. Then station 1 starts transmitting frame 1.2. Frame 1.2, when it is being transmitted, station 2 has already started transmitting frame 2.1, and then station 3 before that has started transmitting 3.1. So basically at the same time there are 4 frames being transmitted. So this will cause a collision, and this is the duration. So here when frame 3.1 this part had traveled, here frame 2.1 had started. So this caused a collision among these two frames, and then again frame 1.2 and 4.1 also started transmitting at the same time. So this caused a collision. And then in this same way, frame 2.2 and frame 4.2 have a collision. That is this gray part that you notice over here. And the frame 3.2, there is no collision. So basically at the end, there are only 2 frames reach. That is frame 1.1 and frame 3.2. So here, since there is only one channel to share, there is a possibility of collision, and we can see that we can see clearly that there is a collision. And these are the 4 stations. This is basically an example. This kind we can't show the transmission in this way realistically. So each station, there is a collision and multiple frames are in contention, or multiple frames want to access the same channel. So basically only at the end there are 2 frames which reach, which is frame 1.1 and frame 3.2. So we need to mention that even if 1 bit of a frame coexists on the channel with 1 bit from another frame, then there is a collision and both will be destroyed. Now, Aloha, it was actually designed for wireless networks, as I said, but it is also applicable for the shared medium. And in this, multiple stations can transmit data, as we are seeing, at the same time, and which can lead to collisions. So the pure Aloha allows stations to transmit whenever they have data to be sent. So as you see, station 2 did not have data to be sent until this time frame, and it started sending at this time. And even station 4 did not have data to send after this much time. So it is sending data after the given amount of time. This is the time that it has taken to send the data. That is, at this till this point, it did not have any data to send. So whenever a station sends the data, it waits for an acknowledgement. Now, once the station has sent, it will wait for an acknowledgement, as it usually happens. Now, if the acknowledgement does not come within the allotted time, so if there is no acknowledgement received, then what it will do, then the station will wait for a random amount of time called back off time. There is some random time which the station will wait before retransmitting the data. So as we have seen already, any station will retransmit the data, and what time period will it wait? So usually in the protocols we have seen in the earlier class, we have seen that there is a timer. So what is the time that is set up on the timer? It is the back of time, which is denoted by TB. So let me just write it over here. Back of time, TB. So it is the time which is this is the amount of time before retransmitting. So amount of time before retransmitting. Since different stations wait for different amount of time, the probability of further collisions decreases. So each station will have some different random time, so the probability will decrease. And what is the efficiency? The efficiency of pure Aloha will be maximized. Now, whenever two frames are trying to occupy the channel at the same time, there will be a collision, and as I said, both will be corrupted, the data will be corrupted. And if the first bit of a new frame overlaps with the last bit of a frame almost finished, both will be destroyed. So we have an example actually over here. So here, this is the, and there is another term that we have to know, which is the vulnerable time. What is a vulnerable time? So it is the length of time in which there is a possibility of collision. So here, if there is a possibility of collision, then this time is known as the vulnerable time. Now the backup time is a random value that normally depends on the number of transmissions and unsuccessful transmissions that are happening. So over here, we will have to, so over here we have seen that B's end collides with A's beginning, and A's end collides with C's beginning, right? So whenever the data is being sent, then if a collision occurs, then the entire data will be corrupted. So this is the vulnerable time, which is denoted by 2 into TFR. Now what is this TFR? So basically TFR is the average time required to send out a frame. So average time required to send out a frame is TFR, and the vulnerable time is, that is the probability, the possibility of a collision will be equal to 2 into TFR. Okay, so this is important. Now we can move on to the next topic, which is slotted Aloha. So slotted Aloha is, we are making a few assumptions in the case of slotted Aloha. So pure Aloha has the vulnerable time of 2 into TFR, that is TFR is the time taken to send a frame. Now this is because there is no rule that defines when a station can send. So in slotted Aloha, we are dividing the time into slots, and we are considering that all frames are of same size, and time is divided into equal size slots, time to transmit one frame. So basically, let's just see the diagram. So over here, we are dividing the time into slots. We have a slot 1, and in each slot we can send one frame. All right, and we can, what we do is basically we force the station to send only at the beginning of the time slot. So a station can send the frame only at the beginning. So it will start here and it has to end here. That is the frame slot 1 slot amount of time. And in the second station case, we are seeing that it has started at the second slot and it will end at the beginning of the third slot. So this way, the name, as you see, is derived from this division of the time into slots. And because the station is allowed to send only at the beginning of the synchronized time slot, if a station misses at the moment, it must wait until the beginning of the next time slot. So suppose if station 1 was supposed to send at this slot 1, and if it did not send at the slot 1, then again it will have to wait for slot 2. It cannot send in the middle. So of course there is still the possibility of collision if two stations try to send, but what will happen is the vulnerable time will decrease. So vulnerable time is given as TFR only. That is the time frame, the time which is required by the frame to transmit. So here this is more efficient than the pure Aloha. So it was developed just to improve the efficiency of pure Aloha, as the chances for collision in pure Aloha are high. We have already seen in the pure Aloha, chances for collision are high. So that is why this was developed. And the time of the shared channel is divided into the time interval, which are known by this slot 1, slot 2 in this way. And sending of data is allowed only at the beginning of these slots. If a station misses out the allowed time, it must wait for the next slot. So this will reduce the probability. Why? Because in this case, if you notice, once station is sending, the other station cannot send until its frame has completely reached the transmission. That is, it won't be remaining. So here in the previous diagram of the same thing, if you remember, even if a station was, or even if a data was at the last bit and the other station has started sending, then the end bit of this data will collide with the beginning bit of this and it will corrupt the message. So to avoid these kind of situations, we have developed the slotted aloha where there is less probability of collision and the vulnerable time has decreased to TFR. So if a station misses out on the allowed time, it must wait for the next slot. And here this frame transmission time, as it has decreased, it is better than the pure aloha. Now we will see the difference between the pure aloha and slotted aloha. So in the case of pure aloha, let me just draw. Yeah. So here we have pure aloha and here I'll be taking slotted aloha. So in the case of pure aloha, any station can transmit data at any time, any station, anytime. But in the case of slotted aloha, any station can transmit the data at the beginning of this time slot. So only at the beginning of time slot. But any station, so I'm talking about any station only. Any station can transmit the data at the beginning of the time slot. And the time is over here continuous. It is not synchronized globally. And here in this case, the time is discrete. That is, we have divided the time into some kind of slots. And now after that, what is the vulnerable time that is given by 2 into TFR, that is the frame time for transmission. And in this case, vulnerable time is simply TFR. And what is the advantage? The main advantage of pure aloha is simplicity. That is, it is very simple. It is a very simple protocol. But the main advantage in this case is it reduces the number of collisions. That is why it has been basically changed a bit, and it reduces the number of collisions and also doubles the efficiency. Because the vulnerable time has decreased by half, so the efficiency has decreased. So that is, it doubles the efficiency. Now we will see what are the disadvantages. Collision, that is wasting idle slots. Some slots will remain empty and nodes may be able to detect collision in less than time to transmit the packet. And the clock synchronization, that is, it needs a globally synchronized clock. Okay, so now we will be seeing the next protocol of multiple access protocol, which is CSMA. We are seeing this part, random access protocol, and in that we will be seeing the CSMA. So here first we have to see the CSMA protocol and what are the different types of protocols of CSMA that we will be seeing in this topic. So first and foremost, we have the CSMA, which is abbreviated. So CSMA is simply the abbreviation. Its full form is Carrier Sense Multiple Access. And why was this protocol given? So the reason being, to minimize the chances of collision and increase the performance, the CSMA was developed. The chance of collision can be reduced if a station senses the medium. So here this carrier sense is very important term in this protocol. That is, the station should sense the carrier. Carrier over here is the channel or link. So the station must sense the channel before trying to use it. Carrier sense multiple access requires that each station first listen to the medium or check the state of the medium before sending. So a station now follows the activity of other station. What is the rule? So what is the rule of a conversation? We listen to someone before talking, and if someone else begins talking at the same time, we stop. So the same thing is done in CSMA. A node should not send if another node is already sending, carrier sensing. And in this case, we have two things: carrier detection, collision detection, and collision avoidance. And a node should stop transmission if there is interference. That is the concept of collision detection. Now, what is the principle of carrier sense? It is the same. It is basically sensing the carrier, or we can even say it as sense before transmit, or listen before you talk. Listen before talk. So this is the principle, and to minimize the collision and increase the performance, this was developed. Now, if everyone is sensing the medium, how can collisions still occur? So basically, whenever there is a channel propagation delay, if suppose A is sending and it is sending the frame, this is the A's frame and we are sending the Z's frame. The time taken for A's frame to reach Z might have seen that there is no frame on the network right now, and it might have started sending the frame. So in that case, a collision will occur. Now, what is the next thing? Basically, carrier, there are two things, as I said. Whenever the CSMA protocol is occurring, the first is the carrier is busy or the carrier is idle, and the possibility of collision still exists, as we have seen in this diagram, because of propagation delay. A station may sense the medium and find it idle. So then, before it started sending, they thought that the station is idle right now, but the first bit sent by another station has not yet been received. So the first bit of A did not reach till here. So the Z channel thought, sorry, the Z station thought that the channel might be free. So now, basically what I was trying to say is, whenever a station sends a frame, it still takes time for the first bit to reach every station and for every station to sense it. So in other words, a station may sense the medium and find it idle because the first bit sent by another station has not yet been received. Now, in the case of vulnerable time for CSMA, it is equal to the propagation time TP. Now here, whenever we are talking about CSMA, there are three kinds of methods. Three methods have been devised to check whether the channel or the carrier is busy or idle. So what should a station do if the channel is busy? So that is the first question. So there are two scenarios, right? If a channel is idle or if a channel is busy. So for these two things, there are three kinds of methods. The first is the one persistent method. The next is the non-persistent method. Persistent method. And finally, we have the p-persistent method. So these are the three types of methods that we have to check whether to decide what to do when a channel is busy and to decide what to do when a channel is free. So basically, we will see the diagram of these three methods and then understand the, yeah. So these are the three persistent methods given. So the first diagram is for one persistent, the next is for non-persistent, and the other is for p-persistent. The one persistent method is simple and it is straightforward basically. In this method, after a station finds the line idle, it sends the frame immediately. So see over here, it will continuously keep on sensing, and as soon as it sees that now the station is now the channel is idle, it will send its message. So it will send the frame immediately. Here the probability of the channel being idle is 1, right? It is idle right now, so the probability is 1. So that is why it is called as one persistent method. Let me zoom in. Yeah, so it is continuously sensing. At that time it is busy, but as soon as it sees that the data has been sent and the channel is free, it will sense and transmit. So this method has the highest chance of collision because two or more stations may find the line idle, right? So basically, in if we have more than two stations and both of them are sensing over here, then two or more stations will find that the line is idle and they'll start sending their frames immediately. So this will result in a collision. Now, what is the next method? The next method is, one second. The next method is non-persistent method. In the non-persistent method, a station that has a frame to send will sense the line. If the line is idle, it will send immediately. But if the line is not idle or if some data is being transmitted, it will wait for some random amount of time and then senses the line again. So the non-persistent method basically reduces the chance of collision because it is unlikely that two or more stations will wait the same amount of time. So they are waiting some random amount of time before sensing again. So this method reduces the efficiency. Basically, what do you mean by persistent? Persistent is simply continuously checking, right? So in the case of one persistent, it is continuously checking, but in the case of non-persistent, it will check, then wait some random time, then again check, then wait for some random time. Now, if the line is free, it will send. But what is the amount of time it is waiting? Each station has a random amount of time. So hence, that is why here collision chances will decrease. In this case, as I said, collision chances are more, but in this case, collision chances will decrease, and this method reduces the efficiency of the network. Why? Because the medium is free or idle for some amount of time. Now the next is the p-persistent method. It, in the case of this, it uses the channel basically has time slots with a slot duration which is equal to the propagation time. In the case of p-persistent method, what will happen is there is a probability p. With probability p, the station will send the frame, and with the probability, so whenever we are talking about probability, if the probability is p, then the probability for the event not to happen will be q is equal to 1 minus p, right? So if this probability is q, the station waits for the beginning of the next time slot. So in this case, as it was in the case of slotted aloha, here also the channels are divided into time slots, and if the probability is p, it will send. The frame is sent. If the probability is q, it will wait for the probability to be p. Now, if the line is idle again, it will check the probability and send the frame. If the line is busy, it acts as though a collision has occurred and uses the back off procedure. So whenever it is checking for the probability, that is basically kind of back off procedure. So in the diagram, if you notice, here it is continuously sensing, and in this case, the probability will obviously not be p. Now, probability outcome does not allow transmission, and now whenever the probability allows it to transmit, it will send the frame. So here it applies to the slotted channel. So this slot, it is similar to your slotted aloha, and whenever a station becomes ready to send, it senses the channel. If it is idle, it transmits with probability p. With a probability q, it will wait for the next slot, and in this case, the process is repeated until either the frame has been transmitted or another station has begun transmitting. So in this case, the unlucky station, whichever is not able to send, it will act basically that it will act as if it has a collision, and if the station senses the channel is busy, it will wait until the next time slot. So this is for the p persistent CSMA. Now the next we have seen is the two types of CSMA, that is the two parallel methods of CSMA. One is the CSMA CD and the other is the CSMA CA. CA is collision avoidance and CD is collision detection. So the name itself, you can understand that in the first method we will just detect the collision. In the second method we will try to avoid the collision. So what is CSMA CD? If two stations sense the channel to be idle and they begin transmitting simultaneously, so they will both detect the collision almost immediately. So rather than finish transmitting their frame, so if both the stations are transmitting and they detect the collision, what they will do? They will stop the transmission abruptly. So they will stop in the middle as soon as the collision is detected. Okay, so because the collision is being detected initially in the pure aloha, if you remember, even the last bit is colliding with the first bit of another frame, then that second frame is stopped immediately and it will quickly terminate, saving both the frames, saving the channel's time and bandwidth. So this protocol of stopping immediately is known as CSMA-CD, that is carrier sense multiple access with collision detection, and it is usually used in the LANs in the MAC sublayer. So in LANs, it is used in the MAC sublayer, and the access method used by Ethernet also is CSMA-CD. So Ethernet also uses this protocol, random access protocol. So if a station monitors the medium after it sends the frame to see if the transmission was successful. If so, the station is finished. If, however, there is a collision, it needs to send the frame again. So in this diagram, let's see what happens. So here, first look at the diagram for the transmission period. So this is the time taken for the frame to transmit. And what is the contention period? The contention period is there is another channel which wants to send its frame. What will happen over here is, so at this point T naught, let me just clear this. Yeah. At this point T naught, what happens is a station has finished transmitting its frame. So this is the transmission period. The frame has ended over here. Now any other station having a frame to send may now attempt to do so. If two or more stations decide to transmit simultaneously, what will happen? There will be a collision. So collision can be detected by looking at the power or pulse width of the signal and comparing it to the transmitted signal. Basically, when a collision occurs, the power of the signal will increase, right? So after a station detects a collision, what it will do? It will abort the transmission and wait for a random period. So whoever waits for the lesser period of time, then again it can send the frame, and assuming that no other station has started transmitting in the meantime. So similarly, this will keep on going on. So once a frame is sent, then again another multiple stations will check. There will be contention slots, and there will be an idle period also. So whenever you're talking about CSMA CD, there will be three states. One is the contention state, the transmission state, or the idle state. What is the contention state? When two or more stations are together looking to send the frame. The transmission period is the period, the amount of time for which a frame is sent, and the idle period is when none of the stations want to send a frame, and the transmission medium or the medium is right now free. So these are the three states, and CSMA CD is used in the case of Ethernet. Now, how the stations detect a collision? There are many collision detection methods. Most of them are analog. Another example is the voltage level, the power level, and transmission, detecting simultaneous transmission. Now we will look at the last thing of unit 2, which is CSMA CA. Now what is this? Carrier sense multiple access with collision avoidance. It is a network multiple access method in which carrier sensing is used. But what happens is nodes attempt to avoid collision by beginning transmission only after the channel is sensed to be idle. It is particularly important for wireless networks where the collision detection of the alternative is not possible. So CSMA-CA is actually unreliable due to the hidden node problem. So what happens over here? Let's look at this graph. Let's look at this flowchart. So first and foremost, in the case of CSMA with collision avoidance, so in the case of CSMA-CA, there are three strategies which are used for collision avoidance. The first is the IFS, interframe space. Then we have the contention window, and then we have acknowledgements. Now, what is the interframe space? So first, collisions are avoided by uh, stopping the transmission even if the channel is found idle. So whenever the channel is free, even then the station does not send the frame immediately. It waits for some period of time. That period of time is known as interframe space or IFS. So this is waiting for the interframe time. So first it will start and set back off to 0. What is back off? Back off is the amount of time it is waiting to send. And then there is a strategy that is being used, that we are using the persistence. In the CSMA method, we have seen the three strategies: one persistent, non-persistent, and one of those we will be using, and wait for the interframe space. So even though the channel may appear idle when sensed, a distant station may have started transmitting. So for that reason, we are waiting. After that, we will wait for a random amount of time and then send the frame. So over here, we will send the frame and set a timer. If the acknowledgement is received before timeout, then the message or the frame has been sent, it is a success. If it has not been received, then it will increment the back off. What is the back off? It is the time waiting. We are waiting for the acknowledgement to be received. If the back off limit is exceeded, then it will abort. If not, what it will do, it will start the process again. So in CSMA-CA, if the station finds channel busy, it does not restart the timer of the contention window. It stops the timer and restarts it whenever it becomes idle. So CSMA-CA was basically used for wireless networks, and although the procedure over here described is not sophisticated, that is, we have a lot of waiting time, but what it does is it solves the issue of the collision avoidance, and that is why it is used in wireless networks. So with this, we will be concluding the unit 2 and the three topics of unit 2, that is the data link layer and the flow control. So these two are actually the large topics, while the multiple access protocol is simply usually asked in 2 marks questions. So aloha, slotted aloha are important for 2 marks, while we get an essay from these topics. And we have concluded our unit 2 today. Thank you.